Yo, it's the SHF Deku from like the latter half of My Hero Academia. I finally got him. Got him from the Big Bad Toy Store, and thank you for, I would say thank you for fast shipping, but it feels like it took him a week just to get 2 orders ready. Well, not 2 orders, but 2 figures. Anyway, this figure is just as good as everyone says it is. But before we talk about the figure, let's look at the box real quickly. Before I look at the box though, comment down below if you want me to keep doing little box overviews if I haven't thrown the box away already. Anyway, box looks cool, shows the figure really nicely, love the white and teal, really cool MHA logo, a whole bunch of detail. They no longer are putting the instruction booklet on the side of the tab, thank goodness. Now it's actually separate again. Hopefully they keep that for now, and who cares. Bring the figure back over and let's take a look at that head sculpt. That hair looks really good. And it's pretty much, it feels really similar to the Total Anime hair, but definitely has more shading. And out of all the Deku action figures, I only have 2, I think this captures Deku's appearance the best, head sculpt wise. And this is everything he comes with, and as you can see, the painting and the sculpting of the overall figure is also really nice. Now to the big-ish elephant in the room that I've heard every single person talk about. Not regarding the accessories, but regarding his paint. He uses, well, not his paint, but his plastic. He has a shiny, non-matte finish plastic without a matte finish paint job. And some people are saying that that gives him a cheap feel. Now, in hand, this figure feels pretty weighty, so it doesn't feel, cheap. It feels good. It feels nice. All the joints are smooth and work well. And the shininess in person isn't that bad. On camera, it looks a lot more shiny than it actually is. And even though it's shiny, it's not like bad shiny. It's just kinda shiny-ish. It's a little reflective, but it doesn't look bad. Would it have looked better with a matte finish? Well, for comparison, here is the more matte-ish, even though it's still kind of shiny, the more matte-looking Total Anime figure. It doesn't really matter. Here's some other matte finish figures. Like, does it really matter? I guess if you're a stickler and you like it, just give it a matte top coat if you can paint, but I don't think it really matters. I'd rather us have no matte coat and it still look good, and it'd be a little cheaper than if they did a matte coat. I don't know how much a matte coat would cost, but it doesn't really matter. That being said, I would have liked the scarf to get a matte coat because this does look a little weird and cheap, or at least some shading. I mean, granted, I could do that myself, but that doesn't really matter. If you really don't like this section of scarf, you can just, you can just remove it. I mean, yeah, he still has it in the front, but it's not like that bad. It looks pretty cool. So yes, he has his hood on the back there. I do wish that the effects set that's going to be coming out soon had like a swappable something, so you could remove this and just have remove the scarf and put his helmet thing over. He still has the little grill, and it does look really nice. That kind of gunmetal gray stands out in a really cool way. But speaking of plastic quality, I mean, yeah, he's mostly made of hard plastic. However, the scarf, thankfully, is made of a much more flexible plastic, and technically same for his hair, which I really like when hair is slightly bendable, slightly flexible, but everything else is nice and hard and solid. And talking about solid, holy cannoli, they did it! Perfectly solid figure, wonderful articulation. Yes, the sign of a good figure is if you can hold him perfectly horizontally from the lower leg, and it just stays there. This is what is like the perfect rigidity for leg joints. That is my test to see if a figure has good, solid joints. Beautiful bend at the knee. Not like amazing, but it feels good, and it looks so cool. It almost gives me Gundam vibes with how this chambers into the upper leg. Now we have a thigh swivel, bend that far, pivot, pivot, same on the other leg, and this thing, which is just kind of a floating thing, it works. It works. Toe bend, I wish the toe bend was better, but you know what? Big, thick boots, I don't really care. So yes, it's actually not a thigh swivel as much as it's on a ball joint, and unlike my Naruto figure, I didn't have to screw the ball in. Yeah, on my Naruto figure, they didn't screw it in enough, so I had to screw in the ball joint. Otherwise, the leg was loose. That was like, come on, guys. It's a screw. You could, well, I fixed it myself, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, guess what this guy has? This is a flexible plastic. However, it's on a ball joint. Each of his little pouches are on ball joints, and I just think that's great. You can get him into even more dynamic posing, and it's just kind of cute to have little bags that move. Anyway, this is also a floating joint, which SHF really likes to do these little floating midsection cover things. And that works to partially hide this ab crunch. Just an insane ab crunch, and yet this pouch is also solid. This is a flexible plastic, as I said. But yeah, you can see into the joint. Now, there is a bit of a problem with the joint being easily taken off when you're moving, but it doesn't like really matter. Also gives you a better look into the torso, and yeah, look at that weird bend thing. This is like taken from Amazing Yamaguchi, which is crazy. Anyway, side to side, beautiful. Back that, as I said, a little bit anymore, and it will tilt back that far, which isn't the best, I'm gonna be honest, but I'd rather have really good forward articulation. And you know what? This isn't bad by any means. Like, by any means. Obviously, this is just on a ball. It's on a dumbbell joint, so that just goes all around. You can pretty much see what articulation you can get out. And here's the inside of his torso. Same type of ball joint. You can see the ball joints that the shoulders are in, and that's really unique. So yes, unfortunately, due to the angle of these joints, if you try and do a full 360, they will pop up. Anyway, side to side that much, obviously, the dumbbell joint. Alright, now let's get to the head before I do the arms. The head is on, like, 2 separate ball joints. The base of the neck is on a ball joint, and then there's also a dumbbell joint at the neck itself. And yeah, you can look down that far, but you can't really tell because of the scarf. Up that far, side, all the way around. So yeah, really nice head articulation. Oh, and the scarf is on like a dual hinge spitty thing, like the hands pretty much. Yay! And beautiful arm movement over a T-pose. That is just great. So yeah, spin all the way around, completely uninhibited by anything. And then we have at the upper arm, we have a twist at the bicep. Why'd I call it upper arm? I will never know. Same on the other arm. And then a bend at the elbow, double jointed, just like the knees, and yeah, that looks really good. And then the shoulders just connect down, in, as you saw, into a ball joint, so that allows back that far, forward that far, down that far, up that far. Really nice, and it's hidden well by both the scarf and just the overall sculpt of the figure. And then I don't know if you can see it, but it's on a little hinge twist thing where it connects the shoulder point into the arm. See, Marvel Legends, you can't have good shoulders without it dropping an egregious amount. Alright, now let's get to the hands and lower arm. This is on a ball joint, but if you want to twist the arm, because it's also on that same, sort of hinge twist thing, there's actually a ball right there, up, down, all around. However, this point you can't actually move by moving the hand. Instead, you have to grab the hand and this and twist it. That will allow you to move that thing, and then separately realign the cuff. Altogether, this allows for wonderful articulation and just like crazy poses. Which is probably the best Deku figure so far. Alright, now let's get back into the accessories and swap some things. His base head looks really good, or base faceplate. but you can remove that. Yelling, "Grr, be angry," face. I am angry and yelling, face. But don't let this determined smile fool you. He has 2 extra hair pieces. This windswept hairpiece looks great and is basically identical to the other windswept hairpiece, but this one has separate little energy effects on it. And I do mean separate. You can see the little plug hole there. You just put them in. Okay. You just put them in. Pretty easy, flexible plastic, really nice. And this makes him look like he kind of has goggles. And that is looking pretty proper. So in the box, this is how this face, wow, I'm great at pointing. This is how this face and hair combo is presented, just so that they can add in extra face and extra hair piece in that stacked box. And yeah, this looks great. But if you want other effect parts, you're gonna have to get the effect set, except for one thing. Deku here comes with 3 pairs of hands, as well as an extra hand with an effect part. Unfortunately, the effect part isn't removable and swappable, so that's unfortunate. Now, before I get into swapping hands, multiple reviews have mentioned how tight the hand connection is, leading to apparently some breakage. Now, I have played with this figure and swapped all the hands beforehand. That rhymes. And I will say one thing. These 2 pairs of hands work perfectly fine. They're not too tight. But the fist hands are. I don't know if this is a separate run from the other earlier reviews. That being said, let's get into swapping. Overall, just grab him like this, and yeah, that is a little tight. Just for showing, this hand can go in. Oi, yeah, so the fists are tight. I have not used a hairdryer to loosen it, which is a little stupid, but alright, and that looks great. But that was tight, and it did start splitting the joint in there. Basically, the only thing keeping in this hand is this little itty bitty peg there. So if you start pushing too hard, it might start to separate. Now, it is a relatively easy fix, just push it back in there, but that tiny peg is taking a lot of force. However, as I said, the other hands are much easier to get in. Like, that felt about right for what you are getting. Like, that felt good. That's the first time that has happened to me. Yeah, so apparently if you just try and take off the hand, it will take off that whole assembly, which is why you grab it by the cuff instead. Open hands, clawed open hands, and fists. Now, the accessory spread is really good, and it fills up the whole box, so they really couldn't have added anything else. But I will mention, he does not come with his, not these hands, but like the flicking hands before he does his finger flick thing. He doesn't come with these. So this is from the Total Anime, and the color is different and the size of the hands are completely different, so it wouldn't fit anyway. However, the Total Anime came with these effect parts, so if you don't have the effect set yet, let's see if these fit. I'm not gonna lie, these fit better on the SHF than they do on the Total Anime. No shame against the Total Anime. For a budget like $16, $17 figure, really nice, really good, really solid. Not like solid, but, you know, for Jazzwares, solid. But if you have the Total Anime and you don't want to wait for the effect set, or don't even want the effect set, even though you don't get the flicking hands unless you get the effect set, this looks great. The plastic transparency is a little different, but for the most part, it's the same color, and in most lighting, you're not going to be able to tell. I mean, come on, these effects look great on Deku, and it's really surprising because, you know, it's a completely different size figure, differently sized joints, but the flexibility and the fact that he has thicker joints here means that they actually fit better. So if you want Deku to have some extra spice to him, just get the total anime anyway, because these look great. Even with the effects set coming, I think these are going to look great on him and just give you more options. Oh, and one other thing, he has a little bit of paint misapplying on his smiling face. Some of the white has gotten onto his lip instead of on his tooth, which is something only I will ever notice. And it disappears if you angle the head like that. So you know what? And on to size comparisons. McFarlane All Might, which size-wise looks pretty good, but you know, as a figure, McFarlane All Might is, well, McFarlane figure. Uraraka, Bakugo, Symbiote Spider-Man, Goku, Piccolo, Inosuke, Tanjiro, Total Anime Deku, High Grade Zaku 2, and Venom, who actually looks like he could be a pretty decent Nomu, if you customize him anyway. And Shinji's mom. This kind of feels cursed, honestly. I mean, they work together well somehow. Why would this feel like a really cool team up in some weird Smash Bros. Anime game? Anyway, my final thoughts are that this is a must-have figure. It is awesome, it is fun, you are getting your money's worth, you are going to enjoy this figure, and he will look great with the other SHF My Hero Academia figures that are coming out, and probably any amazing Yamaguchi figures. This guy takes a lot of cues from Amazing Yamaguchi from what I've seen, but he is still definitely an SHF figure. I highly recommend him, as I literally just said. He looks awesome, he feels awesome, he's fun to pose and play with, and I will be picking up that effect set, hopefully, maybe. Honestly, his shortcomings are basically just tight fist joints and some of the extra hand things, but otherwise, this is a pretty complete figure. Like, just solid, complete, and SHF is just knocking it out of the park with their new Demon Slayer figures, and their My Hero Academia figures, and there's some of their new Naruto figures, and some of their new One Piece figures. It's a real big shame that Dawn to Dawn did not get the same treatment. However, still an awesome figure. I highly recommend him. You will enjoy this figure, and Kamashi Nations is absolutely cooking with the rest of the SHF line. If any of them are even close to as good as this, I'm gonna be forced to pick them all up, because they're probably gonna have just as good as, or almost as good as Articulation as the Amazing Yamaguchi Reveltech figures, and they're gonna look a little less stylized and a little more like the anime. And you know what? That's fine. Awesome figure, highly recommend it. On to the posing, and also please like and subscribe. Yeah, I need to plug myself more in these videos. Wait, that came out wrong.